This is Lady Gullah, and welcome back to Black American Lineage. Thank you for your support. Thank you for going on this journey through our past and our present. So today I'm going to talk about the Gullah Geeche people of South Carolina. If you've ever been to Charleston on Church Street, there is the Old Market, as they call it. And it is said, and I believe it, that it was a slave trading center that during the slavery days. They deny it now, but that's the word on the Old Market. But at the Old Market, you will see these black women, and I guess they still do it because I haven't been to Charleston since 2019 or something like that. So I guess they're still doing it. But there are these black women, these Gullah Geeche women, who are weaving baskets, and they are beautiful. And they just sit there and weave those baskets, and they talk among themselves. They don't have a lot to say to tourists. But it is a beautiful job that they do, and those baskets are really beautiful, and they are expensive. They are expensive because they are handmade. But this is a part of the history of the Gullah Geeche people. They brought that technology with them from Africa way back in the 1700s, and they held on to it. I think they weave those baskets with seagrass or sea moss or something like that, but it's exquisite. Those baskets are exquisite, and it's interesting to watch. So I'm going to show you a video of a Gullah woman talking about their history.
We think Gullah came from the word Gullah. The Gullah tribe were rice-growing people in West Africa, and they were brought over to develop rice fields.
One of the major reasons why we were selected from the west coast of Africa, especially those rice-producing countries like Sierre Leone, Senegal, Gambia, Angola, the rice coast, was because of our expertise in rice cultivation. We came here with specialized skills, and so we were assigned specific tasks. And if we completed those tasks, let's say by noon, then we had the rest of the day, quote unquote, as free time.
Now, the significant thing she said was that they were brought here from Sierra Leone, Senegambia, Angola, and maybe some other place because they knew how to grow and cultivate rice crops. They weren't just picked up and thrown on a slave ship. They picked the people who knew how to do the work that they needed done. That is very important because people like to think that the slaves were just somebody they brought here, deaf, dumb, and blind, and the white people had to teach them how to do it. White folks didn't know how to cultivate no damn rice, okay?
They were pretty much left alone certain times in the year, and so they were able to really practice the African way of life. And so it has sustained itself over the last 150 years.
And so that's why you still see Gullah so prevalent in these areas as opposed to maybe in the upper state or other parts of the country. Negro spirituals are really pure West African chants. And if you went back to the coast of West Africa, you'll hear those blue notes and you hear that sound, which was the basis for our American music, jazz, blues, spirituals, and gospel.
It's the music of the ancestors, and in singing these spirituals, you feel their spirit. It's the music that belongs to us, so it's important that in singing these songs that we remember them.
I done done what you told me to do. I done done what you told me to do. I done done what you told me to do. I done done what you told me to do. I done done what you told me to do.
The spirituality of the Gullah people is first and foremost, and family is another aspect that is so very important to the Gullah people. Spirituality, family, food, music, and the language.
Really what the Gullah Geeche language is an English-based Creole language. We can just drop one letter from a word and just change the sound altogether. We would probably say, oh, we out here in the yard, okay? We wouldn't say that. We say, we're there in the yard. And you really have to know the language to know what we're saying. And that what really made us ashamed of it, because people say it was broken English that we were speaking, but we were just communicating. I mean, we were talking. It was our language. And what people don't have a language?
So this is so very important when she's explaining their culture. So what they just explained was culture, their family values, their religion, spirituality, their music, their food, and their language. That is your culture. And it's really astounding to me that these people come here from Africa and try to make a case that we don't have culture. And it's the ignorance of the African people, which is why I say stop having this discussion with those people. They're ignorant. They haven't accomplished anything in the last 3,000 years. And they're coming over here trying to undermine people who have actually accomplished something, which is Black Americans. And we did it here in America with the white people, yes, because when we left the shores of Africa, our African life was over. And we had to create a whole new identity here. And the Gullah people are an excellent example of that. The Gullah people are a unique African American community in South Carolina, known for their rich cultural heritage, language, and historical significance, particularly in the Low Country and Sea Islands. The Gullah people are descendants of enslaved Africans brought to the United States primarily through the ports of Charleston and Savannah during the Transatlantic Slave Trade. They predominantly inhabit the coastal regions of South Carolina, particularly the Sea Islands and the Low Country. The term Gullah is believed to be derived from the word Gullah, referring to an ethnic group in West Africa and reflects the community's deep African roots. The Gullah people speak a Creole language that blends English with various African languages, incorporating many African loan words and unique grammatical structures. This language is often referred to as Gullah or Geeche, with the latter term commonly used in Georgia and Florida. Culturally, the Gullah have preserved many traditions from their African ancestors, including music, storytelling, crafts, and culinary practices. Yes, that's their culture. Their cuisine is particularly notable for its rice-based dishes, which reflect the agricultural practices of their ancestors who were skilled rice cultivators. The Gullah community has played a vital role in shaping the cultural landscape of South Carolina. Their traditions, such as music, dance, and art, continue to influence American culture today. Gullah festivals and events celebrate their heritage, showcasing their unique contributions to the arts and culinary traditions. So all of this is talking about the Gullah culture. And because they were more isolated than some of the other slave communities, they were able to retain more of their African culture and traditions than most of the enslaved people. And in doing my research, I discovered that there is a connection between the Gullah Geeche people of the United States and the people of the Bahamas. So check this out.
Let's talk about something that you're not going to see in a tourist brochure. Because when people talk about the Bahamas, it's all beaches and resorts. But there's a history that ties the Bahamas directly to the Gullah Geeche people. And it's a story about survival, connection, and culture that they tried to erase. The truth is, the Bahamas and the Gullah Geeche people share deep historic ties that go all the way back to the horrors of the Transatlantic Slave Trade. But it's also about what came after. How enslaved Africans and their descendants built and preserved culture even across borders. During the 1700s and into the early 1800s, the British brought thousands of enslaved Africans to the Carolinas and Georgia. They forced them to work the rice plantations, specifically because of their knowledge from West Africa. These enslaved people developed the Gullah Geeche culture, distinct language, craft traditions, foodways, spiritual practices, a culture born of African roots and a brutal necessity to survive. But here's the part they don't tell you. The Bahamas were a part of that same British colonial system. Enslaved Africans in the Bahamas often came from the same regions in West Africa. They carried similar languages, farming knowledge, and spiritual practices. This is why you see that striking cultural overlap between Gullah Geeche communities in the U.S. and Black Bahamian traditions. So after the American Revolution, white loyalists fled the newly formed U.S., and they brought enslaved Black people with them, including the Gullah Geeche people from the Carolinas and Georgia. They resettled these people in places like Abaco, Exuma, Eleuthera, and Nassau. And the result? Enslaved people in the Bahamas literally included the Gullah Geeche ancestors. Their cultural practices, stories, and foodways crossed the water with them. So today you can actually see it if you know where to look. Basket weaving styles, storytelling traditions, seafood dishes with rice and okra, spiritual traditions blending Christianity with African elements. These aren't coincidences. They're shared survival strategies. They're cultural memory that refused to die. But of course, colonial authorities tried to stomp out African languages and customs. Plantation owners in the Bahamas used the same tactics as those in South Carolina, breaking up families, banning drumming, criminalizing gatherings, but people held on. The Gullah Geeche people of the Carolinas and Georgia fought to keep their culture alive. So did Black Bahamians. They refused to be completely remade in the image of their oppressors. So yeah, when you think about the Bahamas, don't just stop at the beaches. Think about the people whose ancestors survived two brutal empires. Think about the ties that stretch all the way from Charleston to Nassau. Because Gullah Geeche culture isn't just an American story. It's a shared history of African survival in the face of everything they did to try to erase it. And it's still here, still speaking, if you're willing to listen.
The Gullah Geeche people are just another aspect of the exciting Black American culture. I'm always excited to learn something new about us, about our culture, and about our contributions. Thank you for listening. Have a good evening.